Hello and welcome back to a personal code of conduct. This is Daya, and as usual, I didn't forget. But oh my god, doing stuff that I don't have a deadline for, self-directed stuff is okay. It's not that difficult when I'm very interested in it. I'm actually still very interested in this, but doing self-directed stuff is just so much stress. So, okay, it's not so much stress. I'm just trying to give an excuse for being a lazy bitch. But we are here on another Sunday. Today's Sunday, right? I hope today is Sunday. Yeah, it's probably Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. And I'm at a crossroads, and I hope I receive good news tomorrow. Because some people have already said receiving good news, and I want to be part of those people. But enough of stuff I shouldn't be telling random people on the internet. I've decided on a topic for this week. The topic for this week is analytical self versus a creative self. Spoiler alert, I'm analytic, not creative, which is shocker. Yeah. If for all I talk about a lot and the obsession with creativity, I'd like to you'd think that I'd have the ability to create. I do not. I have the ability to critique. So I'm going to talk about how how to discover if you're analytic rather than creative, what to do, if you really want to create but you just don't have that spontaneous, I'm so creative. Why do I ever go into that voice when I'm trying to make fun of something? I don't know. I think it's social conditioning and all the American movies I've watched. Yeah, that's what today is about. It's being analytic versus being creative. If you want to create as an analytic person, and a foundation of why, I don't know, I won't say one is better than the other or whatever, because both of them, I think one is they are both innate features that you can modify to what's the word, take advantage of you modify, you make changes so that you can express or showcase some aspects that you don't naturally have, or your upbringing hasn't afforded you to have. So yeah, onto a personal code of conduct where I talk about this shit. That's the intro, I guess. So, in my 20 seconds of research, I found nothing. Shocker. Basically, some people trying to chalk it up to creativity as intuition and analytical thinking as logic, and the old research goes, or you can either be one or the other, which I believe doesn't make any sense. I feel everybody is both, but what you constantly lean into is your, what you constantly lean into is your base. Then obviously as situations arise, you have to tap into the other mode of thinking and other structure and whatever. So we'll be going by what people have just roughly summarized as creative. I don't know, I feel even though I do not consider myself as somebody who is naturally creative, I can be creative as an extrapolation of my analytical mind, but I can be creative as an extrapolation of my analytical mind. See me using words that I'm not certain of the meaning because I found it from, just get used to that. So I can be creative as an extension of my analytical mind, but I do not have creativity as the foundation of my, yes, I am somebody who is very imaginative, but when it comes to the actual aspect of creating that thing, I get a roadblock. That's why I always look at to pass data, pass information, find patterns, then add my foundational imagination and create using analyzed data that is available. There are some people that they just use intuition, so to speak. They just flow and they just move. But I feel they are analyzing data but at a subconscious level, rather than they have to bring it to the forefront. And in that kind of situation, you find that they often have less detail. I know this is going to be rambly and I'm doing a poor job of editing, but let me try and order my mind. So what, I've already said, a lot of articles try to reduce creativity to intuition and analytic thinking to rigidity and like data focus. So I like to look at it in the difference between science and engineering. I am an engineering what bullshit am I saying? I'm an engineer by training, which I haven't practiced since the fucking oh my god, it has been like oh my god, it has been like 2 years and a couple of up to 2 years. It has been almost 2 years since I graduated. Oh my god, it has been almost 2 years since I graduated as an engineer, and I haven't practiced. So like there's a thing about, but I always like the foundation of engineering and the structure of how it's like has been presented to me. Like science, I feel science is creativity. Like as much as everybody tries to say people in the STEM, I don't even feel like, to be honest, okay, forgive me all liberal arts people, but I think the foundation of liberal arts is delusion and the imitation of science. Forgive me, I'm very ignorant. I know I'm ignorant, but like I haven't like proper research what the liberal arts is. But like I feel the liberal arts are obsessed with understanding the human condition, but they are not willing to go through a scientific method, because I feel like humanity is too complex for now to have the scientific method is not concrete enough. Like it's not extensive enough to cover like the human mind. And I feel like eventually, I don't know if humanity will get there, if there are civilizations that have already gotten there, but I feel like eventually a civilization will be able to use a scientific quantifiable method to study human personality or study their own personality if they are not the human race. But like I see that that was just my liberal arts rant. So let me look at creativity and analytic thinking in the aspects of science versus engineering. So I feel like science is the studying for the sake of studying. I was having this conversation with this data scientist. He has a science background rather than an engineering background, and he was more focused on mathematical concepts, mathematical indices, and all those kind of hullabaloo things I don't give a shit about. Okay, I do give a shit. They're actually really fun, like especially when somebody's very passionate about the science and they go on and they tell you all along like, oh my god, we don't know why it does this, but we wish it, oh my god, this is so cool. But like as somebody who has like an engineering style of training, I'm like, I don't want to know the magic secret of the universe. I want to know this does this, if I put this in this, if I add this extra variables, this will do this is how it acts. Okay, now that I know this, how can I control it? That is my approach to everything, because I've always had this engineering kind of mindset. These resources are available, how can we make it for the good of man? I feel science is just studying to know, then engineering is using that knowledge to do and to make the human existence comfortable. Can you tell that I've been obsessively reading a shit ton of Buddhist and Hinduist texts, and like we're going through the whole all human existence is suffering, but I, an engineer, will cushion your fucking miserable existence. But let's just ignore that. I feel like I've said everything I need to say, and we're just like fucking 5 minutes in. But like I know I have a lot more to say. So like this is basically me using science and engineering as like a simple analogy for my thinking. Then I'm going to probably like look into like data science. Then I'm also going to talk about like aphantasia and all that other stuff. So what should I start with? I know I have an obsession with creation. I keep saying as if, but like if you've listened to this podcast a couple of times, you know that Dio has an obsession with creation. I have literally technically written in different spots an A4 paper worth of the novel I said I was going to write. I have changed the plot. It's no longer like, oh, she's traveling around the world, because I was like, oh my god, the sheer amount of research I have to fucking do. Like, I don't want to write shit out of my ass. I can't write shit out of my ass, lol. I don't want to just write things out of like thin air and just assume this is how they behave in this country. I think that's just fucking rude, and it always irritates me when I know that the writer didn't do any research. So I was like, oh my god, the research in doing this thing will be so long. And I was like, since the other 2 stories, I wish you guys had like that, like the audio for that one was interesting. Maybe one day I'll re-talk about it, because the audio, what I was talking about for a fucking hour was like really amazing. So I was like, it was like the other 2 stories had supernatural elements. The first one was the YA, no longer YA novel that I'm not even sure I'm still going to write, but like the one that I actually got to like fucking like, I keep saying fucking, like 50 pages in when I was in secondary school. The one about like them going to camp and acculturation actually. And then the second one was like a random short story I wrote and sent to somebody about a space relator. It was a random weird story, but I really liked it, and I still remember it for some odd reason. But like the third one that has been like really moving me, and I'm like, oh God, I really hope I hear good news tomorrow. Like it's really like my heart is really pounding because other people have been hearing that good news. I hope I'm part of them, but like cool. But even if I'm not part of the good news, I'm just there like, fuck it. Like at least I know that, like I said before, I interview well, my CV is fantastic. I just have to dial it down, whatever. Or maybe I'll eat my pride and I'll go and like ask the people I rejected that like, are you guys still like fucking interested in me as your data analyst? But like whatever. So where was I? I was talking about like my obsession with creation and the novel I said I was going to write. I'm even though I have extreme writer's block, I wanted to just create. I had the story in mind and there was nothing. I knew I had to talk about it. It was trying to write this novel that made me think about like, why am I like, two things that crossed my mind, two like incidents that made me think about comparing an analytical mind to a creative mind. So like, let's go to the one that happened this week, then I'll talk about the one that happened like a few weeks ago. So like I was talking about like the one that happened this week is as related to writing. Then the one that happened a couple of weeks ago is as related to drawing. And I think I've even mentioned that on the podcast because I realized that if I thought this way about like writing, about drawing, why didn't I think that same way about writing? So like I was reading, like I remember reading this like particular like random original work on AO3 or Archive of Our Own, like one of those random fan fiction websites, but like it was an original work. And the way this person wrote, and I was like, this has nothing to do with the subject matter I'm trying to present, but I want to write like this. So it's like I kept on seeing like how everything is a like people creators steal, and the ones that are supposed to properly steal know how to steal from many sources. And I kept on thinking that, okay, is this like, I can't just photocopy this person's writing style, but there are some aspects that I'm like, okay, this person wrote this thing perfectly, that person, but like you notice that the story has nothing to do with my own story. It's just like the vibe and energy that I'm trying to replicate. So I saw this particular story and the way like, and I was just like, yes, this is how I want to begin this writing piece. Like this is how I fucking want to begin it, and I'm going to do it, and nobody's going to say anything, and it's going to be perfect. There is a content addict, like I said before, but like I actually have done pretty well in my content addiction. I do have like some days I'm just like fuck it, but like I still have data like 2 days and I haven't like bought a new 3.5 and I'm like I'm doing pretty okay, but I feel like in the next 3.5 I'll do much better, but like so far I'm doing pretty okay. I had to pause recording to take a call. So I was saying something about like, what was I even saying about? Jesus Christ, that your memory has holes. But then again, I do like talking. So I was talking about how like ignore my data stuff. I was talking about like the writing and trying to create a feel. And understanding that the foundational idea is different. But once you use other people's works as a guide, you find yourself like creating a path to a solution. And I think that is how I modify my analytic mind to creativity. Now let me tell, like I'm still talking about like my analytic mind. I've always found patterns amazing. Like I like finding like structure. Like a lot of times if you look at the way I study mathematics, one would be like, why are you solving, like there's a lot of English in your math, like like solving book, and I'm like, I don't believe in just like solving different problems and using brute force and blah blah blah. I believe in understanding that there's a pattern and there are steps that needs to be followed. And I noticed that at least in all the mathematics I've encountered, if there's a level of reasoning that needs to be followed, a level of structure and reasoning that needs to be followed. There is no kind of problem you will not be able to solve. That's one thing. Like, if you have your foundational reasonings down, then the math will follow, and it minimizes the chances of you making errors. It minimizes the chances of you making like mathematical errors because the reasoning is sound. So there's always like how will I put it, a lot of a lot of English in my maths, because I always outline the steps, outline the reasoning, outline the reasons why. And even when I'm studying like dense prose, I like to do bullet points of the key elements. Then if I know that the rest of it can be filler and me just saying bullshit English, so far those key phrases are there. And that's like how I generally study. I want to see patterns. I want to be able to find an answer from an already existing stuff. But like, if I want to create, I may not necessarily be one of those creation kind of people. But then again, I don't think there's any human being that is actually like that. But remember, we are individual, and I'll be a huge portion of human anxiety from my own theory is the fact that we only assume what people think. We are unable to actually deduce what they are thinking. I don't know, I'm just using random words. What was I saying? I was talking about how, and that's like as relations to my writing. Let me now talk about it as relations to my drawing. Like, I had already come to this conclusion like a couple of yes, I do enjoy finding patterns. I do enjoy like finding structure and replicating those individual things that I've learned into a drawing, which in my defense is how drawing is done. But there is another way you can do it that I feel is much faster, like a learning by doing approach that suits an analytical mind, which is compositional drawing. Like, I'm not interested in realism per se. Airplanes. I'm not interested in realism per se. I wonder how that's going to sound on like the audio. I'm not interested. This is the third time I'm saying it. I'm not interested in realism per se. So like, I'm not like one of those people that is like obsessed in looking at every tiny detail and copying like a true to life photo of picture or what have you. But I like when this artist with aphantasia was talking, and she was like, she's obsessed with like copying like real appearances. And I'm like, but what about if you want to create something like realistic looking but is not an actual person? Then she started talking about like compositional drawing, which is something I've done. A lot of my pieces, like especially when they're not like straight up copying, are compositional drawings between like several pieces that I like, then a combination of some things that I was able to learn. Because there's one thing I've noticed, especially with drawing, is my ability to copy pattern, to copy technique is not as strong as my ability to copy patterns. So it's like, I want to move from pattern to technique rather than technique to pattern, because I feel that is like a very analytical way of looking at existing end results and trying to modify it to create something new. That is like how I feel is my analytic thoughts as relating to creativity or what have you. So that's for drawing, that's for writing. Then how do I approach like personal things like with an analytic mind? At least Dio's definition of an analytic mind. For one, I'm not particularly interested in why for some things, but I'm interested in what can I do with the available information. Then if it doesn't go beyond the available information, then I do not find it difficult to do the science, actually, because I know what I want and I have to go and find what I want. I'm not like blindly exploring into the void like a fucking theoretical physicist or whatever. But like, if there is no information available after I search all the journals and all the scientists haven't gotten a set of data that I feel like I can use, then I'll have to do the science myself. I'll have to do the research myself. But because I know what I want as to be my end goal, then what I'm throwing into the void, the hook and thrown into the void. Like I literally have something attaching me to reality when I go into the void to look for information, rather than being like a scientist or like a creative person and just like jumping free fall into the void and like looking at where it goes to. I'd say like my solution, my end goal is the theta to reality, so to speak. So yeah, that is part one of reasoning, so to speak. When I think about part two, because I know like I sort of have a lot to say, but I cannot remember the lot to say that I have. So this is part one of the reasoning. When I think about part two, I'll record it. Okay. So I took a break because there was nothing in my head, and I was trying to determine what am I going to talk about next. Oh my god, I have nothing to talk about next. So this is just me trying to like burn time. But let me just talk about what I was going to talk about. Repeating stuff. What I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about an analytical pathway towards creativity. No, and yes, I'm sorry. I took a freaking 2-hour content break, and none of that content had anything to do with what I wanted to talk about. But like, I'm going to talk about an analytical approach towards creativity. Let me look at the like how I create a drawing or how I used to create drawings. Like sometimes I just want to photocopy stuff I really, really like looking at. So, but like sometimes I'm like, I want to create something new, but there's nothing in my head because I can feel what I want to see, but I don't know what it looks like. I cannot see it, but I can feel it. Do you get? So like I try to create like a structure of, okay, this is what I'm looking for, like, and instead, but because you can't just go like everybody likes to tell themselves that they're this amazing Google image search guru, and you just search for what you're looking for and you find it. But like I've realized a better situation is to have a compilation of images, then put it into like sections. Like that's what I'm totally going to do when I finally get a drawing tab. Like, oh god, Dara is just making like plans for money she doesn't have. I'm like, when I finally get a drawing tab, I will, like, because I want to start building a Pinterest board for like art. Then like looking at what I'm going to download, what I'm going to copy, because obviously you just have to buy Procreate once and move on with your life. Then like what I'm going to download, what I'm going to copy, what I'm going to like move, like everything that is just going to be perfect. So like when you go out, because it doesn't make, for example, you want to create things but you don't already have an archive. I think people often think that, oh, you could just go on a reference journey, but I feel it's easier that as you see something that you think is cool, you store it. Like there are some artists that I just have to like keep compilations of their work, all of it, and keep it somewhere, because I just know that their work will make a beautiful foundation for something else that I'd like to create. It's not that it's what I'd like to create will look nothing like their work, like absolutely nothing like their work. But then again, I'm seeing creativity as a hobby, so to speak, as something that can, rather than like a money-making venture, more like a hobby or something that moves towards a hobby or something that moves towards like personal interest rather than like an outlet. And I think that's one thing that separates an analytical mind from a creative mind. Like you want your living, so to speak, to be on more of an analytical process, like what you earn your bread to be more of an analytical process, while creativity be your enjoyment outlet, your loose outlet, your relaxation means and what have you. So like the basic structure of, okay, let me like pan it out I have an idea for, how do I describe it? I have an idea, like I'm trying to build a thought process, like a pathway. I have an idea for airplanes again. I have an idea for, let's just pick up a random idea. I have an idea for a Yoruba warrior. This is not my current idea, but I think it's an idea I had like a long time ago, like a Yoruba warrior. There are currently no pictures of Yoruba warriors. Zero. There are currently zero pictures of high fantasy Yoruba warriors. So, and there are barely any pictures of like tough looking, very African men. So like this idea is usually going to be in my head for like weeks. But like as much okay, I usually want to start the drawing, but I won't find satisfactory references. But I will start building a mood board, working towards getting my Yoruba warrior. Like for example, I will see drawings of various black men. No, first I'll see various expression drawings. Like, and as somebody who's of African descent, I know those compilation of expression drawings will most likely be Caucasian faces. That is not what I want. Then I will find eventually, if I move on, continue seeing things I like, I'll find several drawings and artwork of masculine black men. That is like two key things. I've gotten a compilation of expressions there, but they do not meet the features that I want. Then I've gotten a compilation of masculine looking black men that probably have like singular features. Now I want the warrior to have a playful, cool, doesn't give a shit. But the most kind of features of African men that I will find will be very bone straight serious. So like I will have to merge those features, that bone straight features, and merge it with the Caucasian list of expressions that I have gotten to create my face. Now about the body. Now I can get a bunch of warrior references, like a bunch of warrior references, like as many as I can in poses. Then I try to be like, okay, how do I imagine this warrior? Let's just say I imagine him sitting down. I'm going to have studied like various patterns of various warriors in different poses. And you realize that with somebody with an analytical mind, our creative process is much longer because we need a shit ton of references to build this idea, to build this process. That's why I feel like an analytical mind is more solution driven rather than dream driven, so to speak. It's more creating something out of something that already exists. That's what I believe is an analytical mind. But that can lead you to something creative. It might be a longer part of creative process, but eventually, due to like further exposure, continuous use, you find out that you are understanding the technique, even though you started with patterns of behavior before moving towards technique, rather than technique towards pattern. So this way, and I've noticed that if you go like this back way, this like that's one thing I like about like analytical thought process is that you're able to provide an amazing result than somebody who's like adamantly creative. Do you get? Like yes, you're so many airplanes today. Like must everybody be traveling today? Like you're able to create so many, like a very good result on the first try. Obviously you still haven't mastered technique, your drawing is mostly composition based, but you still obviously use technique as a form of reference. How do I explain? I know my mind is very convoluted and scattered, even though I just self-proclaimed that I like patterns. You realize that this is what you want, and you get a whole situation of references. Now if you have, that's the reason why I'm upset. Like I have a good eye for copying like lines and patterns and all those stuff, but like I feel like a faster way to achieve this is just to trace, because like I said, the reason I'm doing stuff like this is I'm doing this for fun. It is not and obviously you're going to have to learn techniques like proportions and whatever, so because the drawings will not align, the proportions may not necessarily align. You have to learn proportions so that the features of whatever you're combining will align. So I'm basically talking about how I create a composition drawing, because I remember this one really nice one. It was from a manga, this really nice composition drawing. I think I have it on my old Instagram. I don't know if I deleted it. It was a composition drawing of a dude and an afro lady. It was just two drawings that I composed into that, and it looked completely different. But obviously you could tell the pose. I wish I had like 8 more drawings that I combined into one to create a composition drawing. That would have been like completely, it would look completely different from all 8 of the inspiration. And that's how I envision myself creating things, through composition, so to speak. Like, so we've talked about what I want to create is completely unique. I have no idea about how to go about it. I know about structural and bodies and what have you. So I have a book of techniques that we use to fill in the gaps of what I don't know, because obviously tracing is not enough in the sense that there are some things that the person will have erased out because it's not necessary and doesn't need to show in the final drawing. So let's look at the first thing. First thing, I've gotten enough reference sheets of expressions. Next thing, I've gotten drawings which are most likely that of African men. Then I've also gotten pictorial representations. Like, there's one thing that because I am a fan of semi-realism, like, if not realism, like, I like it that you'll be able to recognize that is you, but like, I'm not doing like incredible shading and whatever. I'm just picking at your most striking features and I'm translating it to how, like, so that is a form of technique. So while I'm looking at pictures of, like, I'm still looking at like various art styles of African men, I look for actual African men, like references of actual, like, pictures of actual people that fit what I want to look like. So we've gotten the face done. Now the body, I just get warriors. I get pictures of actual African men. Then obviously there's a way of a fantasy outfits just drape. There's a way fantasy outfits drape. They drape like whoosh kind of way. Like, there's a way they drape. So obviously I have the basic draping, but it's not going to end up looking like armor. I think there's one example I consider composition drawing is how Xiangxia fantasy armor came to be. It's obvious it gets a lot of inspiration from Western armor, but it looks nothing like it because they use the silhouettes of Western armor. And got then actual references of actual, like, Asian style armor and combined it by using existing silhouette frameworks and using it like something as related to your culture. So obviously I'm going to get like charm. Oh god, it's going to be so fucking cool. This is a drawing that I haven't, but obviously, like, when I envision a Yoruba warrior, they have to have charms, like they have to have protection charms, and obviously I'm going to modify it into Aroko, and the Arokos will be more rune-like, like more etched into, like, you have like the cowries, the bees, whatever. And I like the idea of it being etched into skin, but I'd want to draw him either like in a battle stance or just in a casual sitting down and laughing stance. So that's why I feel like you need to have a book of expressions. Then you need to, like, that's like an analytical mind style. An analytical mind lends itself to organization, which is something that my notes are surprisingly organized, but like me as a human being, very scattered. But like my notes and my actual work are often very organized, and like me as a human being is not. So I realize that you need a certain level of, You need a certain level of a lot of organization, like, and building references over time. And then also going back, that's the reason why I want my work to be digital. So I can have like copies of like the same thing. Like, for example, if I find a better reference or my technique gets better, I want to make a copy rather than drawing the whole thing from scratch. Like, the exact part that is better, I'm going to improve that part while still keeping the old copy. So like, if I've had 10 iterations of a singular drawing, I can actually see my progress and what I've learned on each step of the way. Dario's ISO consultancy is showing I'm planning, I'm checking. That's the one thing I really like about analytical stuff. I'm planning, I'm planning, I'm implementing that plan, I'm checking that what I implemented for errors, and I am acting. I'm planning, checking. No, I'm planning, doing, I'm checking, and I'm acting. Dario, how many weeks ago did you quit your job? But like, that's the whole thing. You realize that those 4 key things are the foundation of an analytical mind. Understanding that there's a pattern. You've practiced this pattern that you found. You practice this pattern that you found. You practice this pattern that you found. You check if there are errors, because sometimes, especially in mathematical situations, those patterns don't always, they don't always work. So you have to go back and check why your universal rule is currently not working. Then eventually you improve that, you like reiterate the process until you get a solution that works perfectly every time. And funny enough, I was completely unable to do this for all thermodynamic related stuff. Not because I didn't like thermodynamic, I just didn't like the essence of that. But I'm very sure if I sit down with an air conditioning textbook, I'd do fabulously well, because I don't know, I'm just perfect like that. Yes. So like, where was I? So we've gotten the face element, we've gotten the stance. Now we're talking about the fashion. Now, like, and I've also talked about like how you want to merge armor, you want to use Jiangxia style armor, you want to look at, then you now have to look at Yoruba fashions. You need a shit ton of Owambe fashion related stuff, like a shit ton of, to get like, oh god, it'd be so cool if you like, it's I like the whole like scholar stances they have in Jiangxia, but like it'd be so freaking cool if it was a tagbada, and like if you had the runes, because I think the Arewa sign, the Tinubu sign, and I probably want to look for more like traditional Yoruba fabric patterns, so, like, to use as runes either on like, oh, it's so cool to use as runes either on the character's body or the whatever, on the character's body, on the character's like warrior uniform. Oh my god, it'd be so fucking cool. Semi-realism is life. Then weapon of choice. I obviously, as a Yoruba person, we fight with machetes. Literally, like, that is the Yoruba sword. Like the one built for princes. Like when I went to an acculturation in Ocean State, the one built for princes looks slightly different from a what's the word? Looks slightly different from a farmer's machete, but like, you know that the average soldier is supposed to be like a random farmer. Take your machete and Ibo and arrow and come and fight. But the ones built for like princes and actual like warriors has like better grip, better everything, but it still looks like a farmer's machete, but like it's a machete, like pirates kind of machete, but like cooler. Or maybe if I'm doing like an Edo inspired warrior, he's going to get like, Edo people have this metal fan. Oh, this is so fucking cool. Like the fans that go like two sharp fans, like with runes on the fans. Oh god, it'd be so fucking cool. Oh my god, it'd be so fucking cool. And you realize that I've created a composition drawing using references, and I've been able to create by analyzing patterns. So welcome to Dario's analytical approach to creation, drawing edition. So now let me do that writing edition. Like has always been my method of creation, and I realized that I have always been able to create good things, so to speak, right off the bat. Like creative people in method of art often focus on technique and learning technique as they go, and then trying to move on. But like obviously there has been like an increase in the use of references and other stuff. But like people often like using references as like because no matter how that's the reason why I feel like importance of modeling and learning technique, because no matter how you have never be enough references to get that position that you want, that dynamic movement that you want. Because sometimes, you'll be able to get them cool leaning and everything, but sometimes the only thing in your head is you want to get them doing a flip or doing a barrel roll. You want to get like a picture of them from above. You have to learn technique. But like before you get to that, you learn, because I noticed this thing about people with analytical minds, they want to get good results right off the bat. Like, do you get? Because I feel like a lot of creative people are willing to just, I don't know about, because I'm not, I identify as an analytical pathway towards creativity, and only approaching creativity when I understand that it is necessary to reach my solution. Like a lot of people like to say like, I'm creative, but like being randomly creative, is your solution workable? Is it practical? Is it something that we can implement and give us results as soon as possible? So like, while creativity is beautiful, it's not exactly business savvy. And I feel like that's the entire like vibe I'm trying to push myself towards, to like give us a solution that works. Like you can improve that solution, but like creativity often has this shotgun. I don't know. I don't think that's the correct word. Often has this like barrel ready to explode situation where it's either bam great or bam horrible when the person, because you still have to learn technique. But like if you focus on using patterns, your first result is going to be much better than if you were just using raw creativity. And I think that a lot of creative people are starting to realize they should be analytic. And a lot of analytic people are starting to realize that you need some level of creativity, because that's why I feel like the foundation of my volume, I have like a creative foundation, but like my approach to reaching what I desire is very analytic. So like that is all for like creativity in the sense of an analytic approach to creativity in drawing. I don't think I learned anything, because remember, this is a personal code of conduct. I am trying to tell myself shit. I'm telling myself that, okay, this is how I do shit, as I'm totally going to do shit. Daryl's going to get a pump. Like, I swear to God. Like, let me get, like, once I get my good news this fucking week, I'm going on a fucking spending spree. Like, if I get the good news, I'll go on a fucking spending spree. So then you find yourself, fuck, can you tell? That's like literally someone came in and I was like, fuck, this is weird. I can't continue this conversation with myself. So I was talking about so we finished the analytic approach to creativity drawing. How many billion times do you say it? Now we are going to analytic approach to creativity writing. And that's analytic approach to creativity writing. Now, you are intending to write a book. I was supposed to like go through. I think this is going to be short because I have succeeded in going through like 20 minutes and I have like 16 minutes. I think this is going to be short. Whatever. This is. Oh my God. This is going to be short because whatever. I should pause this and start the other section in case this deletes or decides to be crazy. So, in this part, I'm going to talk about my analytic approach to writing. Now, this is an approach I'm starting to develop because I feel like it's something that I hadn't fully considered. I literally had a burst of enlightenment, being like, oh my God, I can actually write the way I draw. But like, because I've mostly been, I won't say conditioned, I've mostly, like, the things I actually finished have always been articles about things, like me trying to present an idea, present a thought process, present a pattern, present everything. But obviously, I have this like aggressive problem. You can even see it in the way I talk. I don't have, obviously, when I have created a plan, I have a deadline for a business, whatever, I don't have this issue. But like, when I'm just trying to present like personal beliefs and whatever, like I have this like punctuation issue in my mind, because I feel like my mind moves so much faster than my mouth, or like so much faster than my mouth or my writing or my fingers. And I feel like I've completed a sentence when I have not. Or I find myself using filler because I feel like I've said everything I need to say, but like I haven't, and I'm trying to get through the next thing, but like I'm working through that. Hence the podcast, so I'd properly be able to like, this is an exercise in properly expressing myself in all situations, like, because I intend to find myself in a situation where I'm going to give more presentations, give more expectations, give more of those, whatever. If I get my good news, I'll get the good news, whatever. It's going to be fabulous, and I'll be happy, and everything will be perfect. So, where was I? I was talking about like how I haven't fully developed my analytic approach to creative writing. Let's call it analytic approach to creative writing, because I do some form of non-creative writing. I do technical writing, and I have done that effectively. I literally did have a final project. I got an A in. Basically, everybody got an A because their supervisors were nice. But like, I've done technical writing. Okay. I've literally even done summary of my project and sent it to my supervisor. I've done technical writing, but I've been able to present facts and orders and what have you, especially when I have a deadline, when I have things to create and what have you. I need to wash my face. That was but like now I'm trying to use data analytical, this like obsession with presenting data, because in a creative writing outlet. Now, this is rough. What's the word? A rough outlook of how I may go about this. Because remember, this is not as prepared as my outlook towards drawing. It's not as prepared as my outlook towards drawing. I don't have a concrete plan because let's say my outlook towards drawing has been tested and measured like 3 times. My outlook towards writing is brand new because this is creative writing, not technical writing. So it means I have to read with more intent. I find out that I do a lot of skimming, like looking for important subject matter, then reviewing it, because that's how I read for data. It has aided me in essay reading and what have you. I do skim, then look for important pieces of data and understand each point of it. Then obviously when each line, if I have to make interpretations of specific lines, I talk too fast, right? If I have to make specific interpretations of each line, I read it line by line and try to get context. But when I read creatively, I tend to fill in sentences because the way people write creatively, you almost know what is coming at the end. You almost know what the author is trying to prove. So you because you are creating that image, that feeling, but because I cannot see clearly, I can feel what I'm expected to see. I say I my mind's eye. No. It's okay. It's not fabulous. I can feel what I meant to see in my mind's eye. So I create this so I want to say I don't look at when I'm reading things creatively, I don't look at it as in-depth as when I'm reading analytical data. Even though I'm doing less skimming and reading line by line, it's still not as in-depth because my technical writing or article writing, I often read it in 3 different points. Once I find the important points, I read it over and over and over again, even though first set is the skim. But if I'm reading a novel, I'm just continuing. I'm not looking. So I'm going to have to change my reading method and read my novels and my non-fiction and more whatever in a more data reading role, because especially I'm trying to gain inspiration on writing style. So the way I'm trying to get information, that is the way I need to read my fiction. I need to read, not just skim it, read it the way I normally do, not slightly more thorough than my skimming method for technical stuff. Oh fuck, the audio is going to be okay. It's just everybody, ambient noises everywhere. Read it for my less, my more technical stuff, then create an outline. I literally have to study creative writing. I literally have to study existing patterns to create my own. I literally have to study existing patterns to create my own, So I be giving outline, okay, this is how this person presented this particular emotion, this is how this person presented. So and obviously you want to arrange it into folders and sections. So if you get a certain point, it's okay, I can look into this folder and find this, then immediately implement that and whatever. And eventually it becomes natural, as though you were a creative individual due to years of practice. Now that is my current game plan in developing my analytic approach to creative writing. Okay, now let's talk about my analytic approach to data analysis. It actually did work. And exploring creativity, because it's one thing, an analytic approach to data analytics and exploring creativity in data analytics. Okay, that'll be the next one. Let me do it in another section. So the last one is data analytics. At first, I feel I wasted 6 months in an attempt to be creative. Funny when something's literally called data analytics. I was just reading textbooks and whatever, and I realized that I learn I won't say I learn by doing, because I'm not exactly like all those people who go like brute force solving. I learn by finding patterns that exist. Like, I like the standard notebook is developed in a, you load the document, you load the notebook, you load the notebook, you do EDA of the whatever of the data, you decide what features are important, you clean the data, you decide what features are important, and then you like encode the data if necessary before you feed into your model. You feed it into several models. You check the accuracy of each model. And either you decide to pick the best model or you merge multiple models to create a better model. That is the standard way a comprehensive end-to-end data science project is. Now, a data analytics project is often stops at the EDA. Like, you want, not a data analyst, a business intelligence project often stops at the EDA. You're not cleaning the data. You want to gain information based on intuition, like based on not just intuition, but like basic mathematical principles that you can, and relationships that you can immediately identify based on the data alone. You're not modeling, you're not predicting, you're not trying to cluster, you're not attaching any algorithms to anything. You're just stopping at the EDA point, then creating inferences using your experience or what have you at the EDA point. But like data science goes on to simulate that experience using models. After you've gotten that point, like, and obviously I think I want to try and learn more model deployment, like, and that really took me far, because the whole like looking at just randomly like reading like Python textbooks and reading data analytics textbooks didn't help at all. It's not like the whole like learning by, I needed to find a pattern that worked and the pattern that followed through. Like, but once I got to a certain point, I had to learn technique. Like right now, I'm not going to deny it, I have sort of abandoned machine learning by Andrew Ng. It was very fun, but like I'm going to blame the job I quit for preventing me from finishing that course. I'm still going to finish it. I'm going to reset my deadlines and I'm going to continue. And you realize that like understanding the mathematical concepts behind like these algorithms have helped, because I do have a mathematical based background. I have an engineering degree, so it's like, it's not that I even had to understand it. I knew it was easy to follow the domains or whatever, but obviously I'm not going to deny my set theory is kind of trash. Like, no. Like, I know it's like regular secondary school set theory, but when it comes to like domains and whatever, it's kind of trash. But like, if I'm going to have to write GRE or GMAT, I have to fucking sit right and fix that hole in my foundational knowledge. But like for the most part, the calculus, I had wonderful differentiation and integration teachers. For the most part, the calculus, the linear algebra, everything was ridiculously easy. And obviously, like in university, because there's one thing I always used to say about secondary school math, secondary school physics. Is like secondary school physics was that we used junior secondary school math to prove secondary school physics. Then we used secondary school math to prove university level physics. But obviously, like a lot of people might not say secondary school level math, because we did. If you were hoping to go for like an engineering course in Nigeria, you most likely did an advanced mathematics course in addition to your regular mathematics course, because there is no way you won't get admitted into an engineering degree if you don't have a good score, a credit at least in advanced mathematics, in further mathematics from your secondary school. Then a lot of time when they try to teach you engineering math, like obviously you've already done a majority of it in secondary school. So that entire textbook, I still have it, engineering math 1, you've done everything in secondary school. But like I wonder how people do it in countries where they don't do advanced math in secondary school. Like how do you like go through that thick textbook in like 1 year? That's just horrible. And while still trying to apply that into like engineering physics, wherever. So yeah. And apparently, I don't think I'll ever need to know university level math, because I don't know. Like, we did do some university level math improvement and everything, but most of the stuff was as related to trigonometry and differentiation. It wasn't all that confusing. But God Almighty, partial differentials. Like, I know there is a hole in my knowledge when it comes to partial integration and partial differentials. And I probably need to do that, because even though I see myself transitioning into the finance industry, like, if I'm going to end up in computational finance, I need to go and fucking like review my differentials. So like, yeah, that is my analytical approach to data analysis. Also, if I'm going to resume and I want to shine wherever I'm going to, I need to review my Python, because my interest, like, that's where I like to present myself in interviews, in the very analytic sense, in that I like to present myself in a manner that I care about the solution and not the tools. So I wouldn't call myself a fantastic, but I know that you want this thing done and you don't give two shits. You want it done. You want the pathway to be easily readable, because I think it's very important that as an analytic person to be able to trace by your steps. That's the problem I also have with creative coders, so to speak. And I feel it's important to have a structure of code. There's something I even want to add. Like, I'm eventually going to try and learn algorithmic thinking. Fuck, I need to learn the principles of computer science. Why did I just fucking study computer science if I was going to like go into computational finance? But like, whatever, it'll be fine. So this was just me ranting about my relatively newfound love of data science, and yeah, I probably have a lot more to say. I'll probably have a full podcast dedicated to data science and my plans moving forward. I hope I get my good news. If I don't get my good news, like I said before, I'll go and beg the other people that like, do you still want me to be a data scientist? Thanks. It has been what's the word? It has been a personal code of conduct, and bye, and have a lovely week. Oh, tomorrow's the public holiday. Does it count? Like, will I still get my good news? I hope I do. I don't know. There, whatever. You're telling strangers on the internet. Bye, 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 bye. It has been a personal code of conduct.